Thank you so much for coming down. I would love to be able to pick your brain about something. Now don't be offended. Okay?
Okay. Okay.
What do buyer's agents do?
Yeah, it's actually a great question because since 2020, and I think I saw the same thing in 2017 after the Royal Commission, like how the mortgage broking industry changed, like more people were coming in or people were leaving type of thing.
Yeah.
So since 2020, you've seen like this explosion of people becoming a buyer's agent. And I've got a background in stockbroking, and the requirements legally that you need in the certificates for that compared to be able to become a buyer's agent is a massive joke. Like nothing, right? To become a buyer's agent, certificate of registration, that's it. So you get all these people that decided, oh, I'll give it a crack, right? So I've seen a lot of people that feel like, oh, because property is the Australian sport, I feel like whether you follow league, union, it doesn't really matter. Property is like the Australian sport. And with buyer's agents, they're supposed to do three main things. One is they should minimize the stress that the whole buying process is, because it is quite stressful.
Yeah.
They should also minimize the amount of time that it takes you to buy a property, because according to RateSeeker's most recent research report that they put out, it now takes 44 weeks or 10 months for the average Aussie to purchase a property, which is a long time.
You know what? That's pretty much spot on. I just bought.
Oh, really?
It took us 10 months.
Yeah, it is a long time, right? Especially if you're looking at the speed of which the market's actually increasing during that time. Like how much every week is it costing you? So minimize stress, minimize time, and also save you money. And the save money thing is where people get confused. Because it's like, are they going to save you money because they're negotiating a really awesome price? That could be the case. But if you're in a hot market where everyone's selling, it's more about if they can save you that time and that time converts into money, or they're telling you not to buy a property because it's going to require significant upkeep, or you've just realized by reading the building and pest inspection that there's some huge issues coming on, or the strata report shows that cladding's no longer compliant, there's going to be a special levy coming in. Those are the things that you want the buyer's agent to do. So they should be locating, assessing, negotiating, and then providing minimization of stress for the process, minimizing the amount of time it takes you, and saving you money. Those should be the aspects. If your buyer's agent doesn't look like they're doing that, they're probably the wrong person.
My idea of, and it's probably like kind of watered down, but my idea of a buyer's agent was always they're really connected, right? And they know all the agents in the area, and when something's off market, they're going to be able to get first dibs on it. That was kind of always my idea of what a buyer's agent is.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the problems, is that like prior to 2020, how many times did people talk to you about off-market properties? Not really a lot, right? But since COVID, everyone talks about off-markets because there was a fear of missing out, okay? And because of that fear of missing out, people were like, something was getting listed and it was getting sold straight away. And then people were smashing it with pricing, and we've had these ridiculous increases in price. I'm seriously skeptical whenever it comes to off-markets. So and when I get a client who calls and throughout our network and says, oh, I really want a buyer's agent to find me an off-market property, I know they're going to be difficult, because currently the data shows that the amount of properties on the market, new listings, is over 20% below the 5-year average, okay?
Okay.
New listings for September, when we're doing this video, compared to September last year, are more than 10% below that 12-month difference, right?
Okay.
So there's less product on the market. So then I sit there logically and I go, if you have a great property, there's nothing really wrong with it. Why logically would you say to a real estate agent, yeah, that sounds like a good strategy. Don't show anyone and let's get the best price. And the funny thing about it is the industry pits itself against itself, because agents are trying to do stuff off market for one main reason, in my opinion, and that is they don't want to say no to the commission, and the property itself, either there's nothing wrong with the property, but the agent's too busy and they want to get rid of some inventory before they take this on properly. So they say, let's do it off market, and you're going to agree to this because I'm going to save you $20,000 on advertising cost. So what do you got to lose? Okay. Then the agent gets rid of some inventory, and that's when they go, listen, we did get a bit of interest, but I reckon that $20,000 investment, I reckon we can multiply that quite significantly. So let's just go hell for leather with that. That's one thing, right? The other thing is the property itself has a
Sorry,
problem.
just
Yeah.
quickly, our selling agent literally did that to us.
Yeah, I'm not making
I
this
feel
up.
like an idiot.
No. It's more, as I said, it's more anecdotal evidence, but we've been doing this for 20 years, so we've seen this.
Right.
And then the other side is that the agent doesn't want to be a representative of that property, okay? Because the property's in a state of disrepair. You know, it smells like cat urine. There's serious issues with the product itself. So they're like, can we move this off market? Okay. And then the other sub kind of category of that second one, when it's the vendor, it's either the property or the vendor. So if it's the vendor is really tight with their money, so they don't want to pay advertising costs, which then is a red flag to me going, what else haven't they paid for to fix on the product?
Yeah.
Or it may be that they're going through some type of financial hardship, emotional hardship, divorce, etc. And those can be nightmare properties to negotiate on. When you've got two people that own the property that don't want to speak to each other, they've got different lawyers involved, etc. That stuff. So whenever I see an off-market opportunity, and I just got an SMS as I walked in here, and the way this agent always starts it, he goes, on the quiet, that's how he starts his SMSs about an off-market property. And I'm like, that's clever. But anyway.
On the quiet, but I'm broadcasting this via text.
On the quiet, you're on an SMS chain of 600 other people.
Yeah, okay.
This is off-market. So we're always very skeptical, but Australians have definitely been brainwashed to a certain extent to believe like if it's off-market, it has value.
Yeah.
But the last thing I'll say is all the data from companies like Ray White, Richardson and Ranch, etc., LJ Hooker, they all have articles explaining that if you sell a property off market, instead of taking it all the way to auction, you're leaving a lot of money on the table. And they've even got the stats for if you sell it private treaty, but public, or if you sell it auction versus if you sell it offline, how much more money you make when you typically take it through that process. And they've got the data.
Yeah, okay. So, and also, and this, I'm talking from personal experience, and anecdotally speaking to people I know, Dutch auctions seem to be the thing now. You know, so it's, you know, we're looking for between this and this, and then as soon as they've got two people and they're rearing to go, they get two offers. They're like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Let's get these two bidding against each other.
And
so it's not technically going to auction.
That's right. And I hate those because they're not transparent. And also, unlike when you go to a physical auction, every bid is not having to be written down. Do you know what I mean? When you're at an auction, every single person that places a bid, it has to be written down. And if Real Estate Institute of New South Wales has to audit that or something like, they can come in and say, this was an offer, this was the counter. This was an offer, this was the counter. But when you've got some guy on the phone saying, Jay, you're really close, but I just got an offer in that is just a little bit higher. It's like, do you? Is that real? Like, what's exactly going on here? It's not transparent. A lot of people hate auctions. And one of the biggest parts of our business is just attending auction on behalf of people because they have this anxiety of going there and, you know, being in front of people. And when you explain what an auction is to people, if you've never gone to one, it sounds insane. You're like, oh, all these people stand on someone's front lawn. You all judge each other based on the clothes that you're wearing and how many family members you brought with you as a posse. And then you start screaming numbers out until someone with a small hammer, for no one understands really what reason, hits it down and says, you're the new owner of this property. And if there's anything wrong with it or any issues, it doesn't matter. It's almost like you're in primary school. It's like no take backs. Like this is the property. You've got it now. And by the way, pay this very second. Yeah, we know the bank's closed, but pay this very second right now your deposit so you can't pull out. Like when you hear it, it's pretty insane. But I love auctions because I love the transparency of it, in my opinion. I love being able to eyeball the other people that are bidding against me. I love to be able to see when couples start talking to each other, which is a telltale sign that they've reached their limit. I love to see how quick it's moving or how slow it's moving. I love to see the silence having to be broken with that first bid when no one wants to make the offer. I like to have that confidence that I can stop the auction and I can say, I've just got to call my client, and it cools everything down and I can just walk away. Like those are the things that you do. We can talk about it later. I've got a full like ritual for the auctions. And it's so important because people don't understand how much of a psychological game it is.
It's very intimidating too, because obviously you got the agent constantly coming up to you, hey, like, you know, I don't know what they're saying because they're obviously each person's different, but they're intimidating you.
Yeah, of course they are. They're bullying you in a moment where you've got extreme pressure going, oh, you know, you could go again. And the thing is, they know nothing about what's actually happening with this property. They know what the reserve is, but they're just trying to push you. So the good thing is, as a buyer's agent, the agents don't bug me because I say, mate, leave me alone. This is my job. I know what I'm doing. I've got a strategy and my clients give me clear instructions. Go away. And they leave me alone. And I like seeing them pressure other people because they start getting frustrated with them. And again, if you can be really comfortable in that hot seat, which as professionals we are, it's not just about the price. It is about the strategy. And then remember, if something's getting passed in, and we're seeing a lot more pass-ins because I think vendors have become greedy over the past couple of years now, just expecting they're going to break records every time.
Yeah.
Something gets passed in, then you have to go in an even hotter seat and you've got to negotiate on the spot to try to make a deal happen then and there.
Yeah.
And if you don't have comparable sales, if you can't justify your offer,
Yeah.
it makes it really difficult. And the majority of Australians, I reckon, that go to auctions for themselves have no game plan, especially for if they've got to jump in the hot seat and start negotiating with the auctioneer, the selling agent, and potentially the vendor. So it's 3 against 1.
So in that situation, because I know some buyers agents, you can engage them just for the negotiation.
Yeah, we do a
process.
lot of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess from what's the mistake that you see people making at auctions?
The biggest mistake, and it's going to sound silly, don't take your family and your friends with you to an auction. It's not the year 12 formal, okay? Calm down. The problem is because it's super emotional, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, and we've all been in that situation. I've been in situations as a buyer's agent when I bought with my wife, and we bought in 2020. It was the last property we bought for ourselves as an owner occupier. And she cried at multiple auctions.
Yeah.
And it's a real emotional thing because we'd be at home, either, sitting on the lounge or something like that. She'd be looking at it on realestate.com, constantly looking at every photo, zooming in on Google. Like, she knew everything about this property, more than the agent knows, imagining where our first daughter's bedroom's going to be, our second daughter, where we're going to do this. Oh, the birthday's coming up, we can have it here. They get emotionally invested.
Yeah.
And then because it's such a huge purchase, they're telling family and friends, like, this is something we're doing. Oh, we had to pay for a conveyancer. We had to pay for a building and pest inspection. Yeah. They're invested. And then because they're so scared, they're like, Dad, Mum, can you come, etc., for support, give us some advice? Because again, most people don't do auctions on a regular basis.
Yeah.
All these people show up. And so now they've got even more pressure on them because if they win, everyone celebrates.
Yeah.
But there's only one winner that day,
which
means there's a lot of losers. And when you lose and your parents are around, it's even harder. Take it harder. So the biggest thing I tell people is don't take your family. That's the first one. The second one is you need to know 3 prices. You need to know your ideal price, what you think the real price is going to be, and what your max price is. Once you've agreed to that, before you get out of the car to go to the auction, you know you're not changing that. The only time you would discuss pricing again is if you go into private negotiations afterwards. But you've got your ideal, your real, your max. You stick to that. One of you is bidding. The other one is shutting up and not talking because you don't want to put more pressure on that person that's not a professional bidder. And you want to take it nice and slow. And you want to, I always tell people this, articulate yourself. None of this 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. $1,450,000. Why do you say it like that? Because the number now is real in your head. And also the people around you, you've slowed it down a little bit because they've got to wait till you finish every syllable before the next person counterbids you. Slows it all down and makes everyone else go, we're at $1,450,000 right now. It's not just 1.45. Do you know what I mean?
Are you a basketball fan?
No, but I'm a sports fan. Okay. But I do like basketball.
So the point guard is basically the person who controls the pace of the game. So if the pace is going very quickly, they can slow it down, they can speed it up.
Yeah.
I find it very interesting because I'm a basketball fan.
Oh, yeah.
I find it very interesting about you talking about slowing the auction. I never thought about that.
You need to. When an auction's getting away from me, even if I don't have anything to speak to the client about, I'll stop the auction. Because who is going to, if I say, guys, I just want to call my client, everyone just shuts up and waits. No one's going to go, screw that guy, we're going to keep bidding. Because they're like, I need to know what this guy's coming to the table with. Is he out? Or is he going to come back with 200K that he's just convinced his client to pull from his parents? What's going on? So you walk away, everyone's there talking to each other now, it's quiet, the auctioneer's getting frustrated because the momentum's gone away, and then you come in and I might either go, I'm out, don't worry about it. And then they start the auction again, but I might not be out yet. I might just be waiting to see if there was another bid, and then if there's another bid, then you go. And again, it's like, the knockout bids are really important. You know, if I know a property, this is probably one of the biggest mistakes I see at auction. If you know a property is most likely going for 1.5 million and you're currently at 1.2 and you're bidding against someone and you're doing $2,000 bids, stop doing that. Just do a $50,000 bid, because the second you do a 50K bid, you've just brought it closer to what the actual value is, because it is a marathon. And if you're doing 2,000, 2,000, 2,000, 2,000, it's the longest auction you've ever gone to, and you know it was always going to get up there anyway. So I start doing $50,000 knockout bids, and people are like, oh, that guy just hit me with another 50K. And then they parry with a 2,000. I'm like, 50. They parry with a 2,000. And then your client will go, why are you doing such high bids? I'm like, he's just counted with 2,000, which means we were always going to get there anyway. But I don't have time to play around, and I want them to know I'm serious. Whereas if you're doing those incremental small bids, it's because you've either got no strategy, you're a massive tight ass, and you're trying to get this as a unicorn. So when you see that pace, it is so important to manage it as best you can. But people just don't have that confidence when they go to auctions.
I think also, and I'm talking from a client perspective, everyone has this fear of overpaying. I don't think that really works in the capital cities across the eastern seaboard. So you know, if you look at Sydney, and I had this conversation recently, having purchased with my wife, I said to her, you got two choices. You either purchase a property that no one wants, and that's going to require a lot of capital expenditure, right? Or you purchase a property that you really like, but it's going to be competitive, and you're going to have to pay overs. Well, what do you want to do?
Mate, you're exactly correct. When we bought our place in 2020, I know what the market's doing. I know what the prices are, and we overpaid by around $40,000. And my wife was stewing about that 40K for like 4 months. She's like, we have overpaid for this. And I said, if you're not willing to pay tomorrow's price today, you miss out. And I just got a phone call from a friend only the other day, and I've been helping him look for a property for 18 months. And he finally bought something, and I was so happy for him. And then, but at the same time, he knows that if he wasn't so picky, or if he maybe was just a little bit more able to compromise, he would have bought something much earlier, and the price point they would have got would have been even more attractive.
I've got a friend who's a client, and I told him, hey, you should. He's a soft-spoken guy, very intelligent guy, but soft-spoken. I don't think auctions are going to be his type of environment that he would be comfortable in. Introverted, etc. And I said to him, I think it was about 3 years ago, you should engage a buyer's agent, right? And he's like, yeah, okay, cool. Because they were looking to spend about 2 or 2.2 in Surrey Hills, right?
Okay, decent,
He said, I said, oh, how'd you go with the buyer's agent? He said, oh, we sat down with him, and my wife and I were like, that's too much money.
Of course.
40 grand or whatever. He's still looking.
And that's the problem. And this is why when you take the data and you look at like the median dwelling value, and you look at the percentage increase over the last 12 months, and you divide that by 52 weeks in the year, you get to see how much money you're missing out on, or how much more you're going to have to pay every single week. And the data is really compelling, right? Like, we're not talking about 5,000, 10,000. We're talking about tens, if not sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars. In the peak of the market for Perth in 2022, late 2022, the market was increasing by $4,700 per week, right? So then you get a client that's got a 90-day pre-approval. That's 12 Saturdays. No one's going to do 12 in a row unless you're a sociopath, right? Like, no one's doing that. Let's say you do 6. You'll do an average, according to realestate.com, of 2 inspections per weekend. So you've now seen 12 properties in 12 weeks. Half of those properties, like you alluded to before, the buyer's guide is bogus, and you're going to realize this doesn't make sense. So it's bogus, and it requires significant renovation, like you were just talking about. No one wants to go into that. So that's the first half of those 12 gone. 6 are gone. The other half of those 6 now are either they require a significant reno, which no one wants to do, or you've got those few ones left that now are in a position where the majority of the other buyers are also looking at it. So you've got major competition. So realistically, you've got like 3 options that make sense to you out of that 1 12-week period. And Aussies just spend so much time searching online because it's so easy. But they don't actually spend a lot of time researching and physically going out to open homes.
This is the thing that I find frustrating with clients. I mean, especially the first home buyer market, because we deal with a lot of first home buyers. And I always say to them, hey, don't don't let the first auction be the property that you want to buy.
Yeah.
Go practice. Go watch
Absolutely.
other auctions. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter if you're not interested.
Yeah.
Just go and just be in the environment.
Yeah.
See, so you know what to expect.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of them don't listen to me.
But it's great advice because, again, it is such an alien process. You need to go there and see it and see how are they doing it, how fast they're going. Okay, what do you do? Like, one of the things that I do is I get, and again, this is all about data. I go to the auction early and I get the number that I know based on the demographic of the suburb has the most superstitious attachment to it. And I know that sounds insane, but if you think I'm insane, the most expensive property in Australia recently sold. It was $141 million. It's in Barangaroo. It's Unit 88 of Building 88 Barangaroo Avenue in Sydney. I'm not going to tell you what nationality bought it because you already know.
Yeah.
So numbers have significance with a lot of people. Culturally, they do. So if I get there and I can take the number 8 off the table or something like that, it's an omen that can affect people that are quite superstitious. So I'm just saying it's those little things that you do to create that psychological benefit for yourself. People are like, oh, who cares? It's like, I guarantee you there's going to be someone at that auction that does care. There's going to be a mother-in-law or something that goes, that's a bad sign. He took our number. This one's not for us. Old people do stuff like that. They say things like that. People are superstitious. They pass that stuff on to their kids. Again, the most expensive building to ever sell is 88.
I'll tell you a funny story. So my son's nickname is Sauce. Okay.
Yeah.
And we've been looking for a house for 9 months.
Yeah.
And you know how you were talking about people being sociopathic?
Yeah.
My wife was making us look at 8-9 homes a day every Saturday
Okay.
for months.
Okay.
My son and I eventually went on strike.
Yeah, it's
We're not
terrible.
doing
No
it
one wants to
anymore.
do it. Yeah.
You go find houses
Yeah.
and then come to us once you're happy with them. Because
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, the house that we ended up buying, we took my son for a second visit, and he said, "I need to see a sign that this house is for us."
Yeah.
Now my son's nickname is Sauce,
Yeah.
SOSS.
Yeah.
It's not a it's an unusual nickname.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
We pulled up, and there was a car next to the house that we were looking at,
Yeah.
and the number plate was SOSS.
Yeah.
And my son said, "This
That's
is
it,
the
man.
house."
People are looking for that stuff. I'm telling you, because you're so hyper sensitive during that process because of the stress. You're just looking at everything. I always show up in my suit every time. I never go to auction without wearing a suit. Why? Because I want to look like the agents that are selling the property.
Yeah.
And I don't show people that I got a paddle until the auction starts and I pull my paddle out of my jacket and people are like, wasn't that guy a real estate agent? Why is he bidding for a property? I introduce myself to the auctioneer.
It's an intimidation.
I say,
factor.
yeah, that's it. I say hi to the auctioneer, shake their hand, publicly try to make a joke, make him laugh, make sure he knows my name. And I'm telling you, the stars align the second I've made a bid and that auctioneer calls me by my name. The second he says, Jay, anymore, everyone's like, how does he know him? He only met me 10 minutes ago. That's why he knows my name. But the auctioneer is always looking to connect because that's their job. And if the auctioneer says my name out loud in front of a crowd of people while I'm in a suit holding a paddle, bidding, they're like, what's going on here, guys? Again, it's all psychological. Just people don't think of it that way. But you need to.
I've been to a lot of auctions and I've never thought about that.
Yeah, you need to. Again, it's just got to be about strategy. Everyone's like, oh, it's whoever's got the most money. That is not the case.
No, it's not. There's definitely an intimidation factor. I've seen so many different approaches. One that you mentioned with the $2,000 above is, I've seen people take the approach of, I just wait for the bid and I just put the minimum bid that the auctioneer will accept.
Yeah.
Let's say it's 10K.
Yeah.
I just go 10K above
Yeah.
whatever people are doing, and that's kind of their strategy. Would you say that the
Knockouts.
knockouts are the way?
If again, it's all about, like basketball, like boxing, like anything, you need to see what your opponents are doing. So if your opponent's really slow, I go faster. If they're fast, I slow it down. So you've just got to kind of counter them. Knockout bids are great when you're just like, and I won an auction in, I think it was like Balmain a little while ago for these two guys that were buying this property. And I was doing 50K knockout bids and I did my last 50K bid and I didn't have $1 more. So I had to make the decision and go, I've been doing 50Ks, but if I drop it from 50 to now 25, I'm giving a clear sign that I'm running out of money. So I was just like, I need to hope that if I do this next 50K bid, she's out. And I did the 50K bid and I looked at her and she looked at me and I was like, I'm ready. And she went, I'm out. And I was like, great. And I told my clients, they were like, because I record all my auctions just via audio so they can hear what the bids were. And the clients asked me, they said, why did you go another 50K? Like, we were going to miss out if it went $1 above. And I said, she was going to at least do 25K, right? So worst case scenario, you pay 25 grand more than what you needed to. But if she did 25 and I posted with 25, then we'd start bidding, the increments would drop, and it would be whoever's on that last $1,000. So you've got to feel the market. And again, I think that comes with experience as well.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'm going to say, which is a bit cheeky, is that people ask me, are you nervous when you go to auction? And my answer is, it's not my money.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And it's seriously, that's a psychological
that's a
factor
good
for
thing.
me.
Yeah.
When it's my money, and I actually, I'm embarrassed to say this, I hired one of my buyer's agents to bid at my property that I own
That makes total sense though.
because I needed to remove myself
yeah.
from the process. I said, here's my real, my ideal, my max.
Yeah.
I don't want to go there. You do it.
Yeah.
And he was like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, I don't want to be a part of it, because you've just got to remove yourself a little bit. And I feel like, again, it's just that emotion that pulls people in the wrong direction.
Yeah. Look, I've got some friends that I've grown up with that are agents all across Sydney. And one of them told me something which is interesting, which is it's common sense, but she would say to me, man, so time kills deals. And it's interesting because you can tell that their training is get the potential buyer into a mental space where they're not thinking rationally and squeeze, right? And time kills deals, right? You've got to condense the time right down so they're making irrational decisions. And that's when you're going to get the best outcome for the vendor.
That's it.
So if you look at it like that and you kind of go, okay, cool, well, that's how the agents are trained to behave. You've got to counter that. And people, well, and I've even found myself asking, okay, well, how do I counter that? But yeah, I never thought about slowing things down, right? And I see it with my own clients. Sometimes clients are just like, I'm not willing to go past this price.
Yeah.
I don't care what the agent says. They can do whatever they want, blah, blah, blah. This is the max that I'm willing to go for. This is where I see value at.
Yeah.
And I always say that to clients too. I say, look, where do you see value at? And we had a first-time buyer just the other day, actually, who said, I see value at 840, but I'm not willing to go to 850.
Okay.
Do you,
So insane.
and it's a first-time buyer, right?
Yeah, of course.
And this is the thing. They have this built-in fear of overpaying.
Yeah.
And what we try to tell them, and see, it's hard for us too, because if we say to them, listen, just go above 20, 30 grand, whatever, look at it as a percentage.
Yeah.
You won't even think about it
No.
in a few years. We're biased because we get paid for the loan that they acquire.
That's
So
right.
it's kind of hard. Like I look at it. Look, I've been buying and selling property for 20 years, but I try to kind of. I'm not allowed to give them advice.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's where I think buyers agents can play a very pivotal role.
Yeah.
And I think that first home buyers, like let's use my friend for example, right? He should have really just engaged the buyer's agent.
Yeah.
He would have paid his mortgage down. He would have, like, think about it. Surrey Hills,
I know.
$2.5 million 3 years ago.
I know. Insane.
Right. I just had a client buy in Surrey Hills. They bought a terrace home for $4 million.
Yeah.
Right. So they've missed out on a lot of money, and also they haven't been able to pay down that debt, etc. And those have real world consequences.
But you also and I have the benefit of understanding time, right? Like, again, I look at my parents' property that they bought in Concord in 1999 for 400 grand, right? And the house next door recently sold for 5.8 mil, and last weekend another house sold for 754, right? If you look at that, and I encourage everyone to do this to understand, like, the best way to understand the value of time, take your parents' property that they own and then look at what your parents make on a yearly basis, just in regards to their incomes jointly together. And then look at what the property's made and divide it by the amount of years they've held it for versus your parents' income. And it would probably be triple or quadruple what your parents' yearly income is. You can't save or outsave the market. It doesn't work like that. So when someone's like, oh, I wouldn't go 10 grand more, it's like, mate, what are you talking about? Like, okay, I understand maybe if you're like, I wouldn't go 100 grand, but 30, 40, 50, 60, even 70, like once you start getting up there, it's like, okay, maybe, but the market's moving, It's just what's happening.
I had a client go 200 grand over. So property was the range was 3 to 3.3, and they paid 3.5.
Yep.
Right, and that may sound like a lot of money for some people, but it's 7% of the value of the property. Right.
That's
so
it.
It's really not a
That's
lot.
it.
Right. So in a few years, what's that $3.5 million house going to be worth? 5.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I always urge people to look at it as a percentage,
That's
especially first home buyers.
Yeah, it's a
right?
great way to look at it. First home buyers typically, and this is the thing in our experience, aren't using a lot of buyers agents because they've already got so little amount of money to rub together anyway.
Yeah.
And the price points are ridiculous, especially in Sydney, median dwelling value over $1.2 million.
Yeah.
They're sitting there going, do I pay a buyer's agent? Like, what do I do? And so I understand that. The trend that we are seeing though is when first home buyers realize I can't buy anywhere I want to live. I'm going to become a rent vestor. And rent vesting's become a much more popular strategy now because you don't get the CGT exemption benefit, but everything now becomes tax deductible that you're holding on to. You're buying in a better location. Yes, in another state, but you're buying in a better location. You're getting better exposure to that capital growth. Mate, people are spending $1.5 million on 280 square meter blocks in Box Hill. And there's no shade at Box Hill or anything like that. I'm just saying, look how far they're going from the CBD. You might as well be in another state.
That's an interesting thing you've actually brought up. Something that I've realised or observed over the years. I'm 46. When I was a kid in my early 20s, there was definitely I guess a bit of a snobbery around where you lived, and the prices reflected that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now I think that's just over the past 15 years, it's kind of just disappeared. So talking about Box Hill, I've got a friend who bought in the Gables. Okay, so you know the Gables.
Yeah.
So he's done very well there.
Yeah.
And I remember when he first bought, right? So he bought a huge 2,000 square meter block.
Yeah.
Okay? When he bought, I said to him, "Are you overcapitalizing?" And he's like, "Mate, he was talking to me. He's like, mate, what are you talking about? Are you an idiot?
Yeah.
Like go do your research."
Yeah.
And I went and had a look at Box Hill, which is obviously it's the same.
Yep.
Similar area.
Yeah.
And I was seeing 400 square meter brand new homes for
insane
2.8 mil, 2.5, and I was like, wow, this is a great example of. And I asked him, I'm like, why did you pick this area? Because he didn't actually grow up there. And he's like, great girls' school in the area. Great amenities, great community feel, all of these sorts of things that
just tick the boxes.
Yeah, just tick the boxes.
Yeah.
Now, for he could sell his property now, and he could go live in the east somewhere. And see, that's the thing that I found interesting is 15 years ago that was the aspiration. Like people kind of went, oh yeah, I'll get to the North Shore, and then I'll go to this. So, no, that's just not the case now. Now it's like I grew up in Concord or whatever the case may be, and that's kind of where, if I can afford it, I want to stay or be close to the parents, etc. But where do you think, from an investment standpoint, when someone's looking at engaging, let's say you're a rent investor, because that's an interesting growth segment, right? If you're a rent investor and you're looking to engage with a buyer's agent, how do you pick the good from the bad?
Yeah, listen, it's a great question because we've had some horror stories.
Please tell me something.
Oh, okay. So one of the big things too, so there's this big push to buy in regional areas, right? And I hate regional areas, right? They're beautiful to visit, right? You want to go away for a little bit, awesome. But again, I just look at the data. Supply and demand is based on, population growth is the biggest catalyst that affects supply and demand, and population growth is mainly the catalyst for that is employment opportunities, right? So when I hear a client's like, oh, I bought in Rockhampton, Queensland, I'm like, ugh, why? Okay. And again, if you've done that, don't listen to me, all right? But if you've done that, I sit there and I go, what type of rental yield are you getting? Oh, I'm getting about 8%. It's amazing. Why do you suppose someone would be willing to pay 8% to rent a property that if they owned, they'd be paying less than 6%? Why do you think that? Oh, I don't know. It's maybe because they don't want to be there in the long term. They're there for a job for a short period of time, or because it's such a low socioeconomic area that the bank doesn't want to give people a loan to do something like that. Could that potentially be a reason? Well, yeah, maybe you're right. But it's gone up so much. Yeah, because those markets hadn't moved since 1982 prior to COVID. And now we've seen some increases there. But there's so many buyers agents that have come out and said, this is the way to get rich. Buy in regional areas, right? There was a black swan event called COVID, and we're rolling the dice again because we reckon it's going to happen and we're going to get an increase in properties. And it's like all these people coming from overseas, net overseas migration. You think people are landing here on a plane and going, let's go to Ballarat, everybody. Let's move the fam. Let's do it. That's not what's happening. No. Plus, as well, all these people from overseas, and this is a controversial thing, and I think it gives hope to first home buyers. We live in a country where we've been told for the longest time, you don't buy units, they're shit. Yeah. You don't buy them. They're bad investments, okay? You're importing hundreds of thousands of people to be millions of people by the end of the next 20 years from places like Hong Kong, China, India, London, US, where the majority of these people live in units, flats, or apartments. Yeah. They're now coming to our country going, wait, how far's Box Hill? How much did you say it was? And it's like, why is a unit in Chatswood cheaper, a 2-bedroom unit? You got all the amenities, it's right there, you got a park, I don't need a backyard. Yeah. So now we're actually seeing the best performing capital cities, Brisbane, Perth, and Adelaide, units are outpacing the growth of houses.
Do you think that that's because the land is starting to become unaffordable in those cities?
Land is unaffordable in the cities, but this is the reason why we have a housing crisis, because everyone wants to live in the same spot. Because we can go further and further out. People often will say houses make more money than units. That statement's only true if the house, the unit, and the townhouse are all in the same suburb on the same street. Yeah. Okay. But why is a 2-bedroom unit in Bondi worth more than a house in Gladesville? Location. Yeah. That's it. Why is a 3-bedroom terrace home that is going to fall down soon in Balmain or Rozelle worth more than a 5-bedroom house in Kellyville Ridge that's on 700 square meters? Yeah, because of the location. So that's the thing, and we had this swing from location to land during COVID, and I feel like the pendulum's coming back, and you're going to get a swing from from land back to location.
The thing that scares me about the whole apartment thing is the government have shown a lack of care when it comes to allowing builders to do whatever they want, deregulating the whole certification process. So certifiers are just work. Like the certifier really represents the builder.
100%. They're conflicted. If we're buying a unit for a client, we're typically focusing on an old school red brick like Ashfield, like that style type stuff. I don't want elevators. I don't want gymnasiums. I don't want pools. Anything that's going to be like a Pac-Man eating up all of my strata, I want nothing to do with it. Yeah. So if you are someone looking to engage a buyer's agent, and as I said, it makes more sense to you to do it from a rent vesting perspective, first of all, you need to know what your strategy is. Are you looking for capital growth? Are you looking for rental income? Are you looking for tax minimization? Is it a mixture of the three? If so, you need to categorize them. What's first? What's second? What's third? Then when you find a buyer's agent, you need to make sure, first of all, the person that you're speaking to, that you've created a connection with, is also the person that's going to do the buying. Because often they just palm it off to these other people. You don't need to have a certificate of registration to go and inspect a property and take a video, right? And this is the thing that I have an issue with too when it comes to regional and stuff like that. You'll call up a buyer's agent, their office is in the CBD in the city, and they're like, oh yeah, we're buying for you in Albury Wodonga, we'll take care of it. It's like, who's buying for me there?
I've seen that too. I've seen that with clients where they've said, oh yeah, my buyer's agent, because I'm always curious, oh yeah, cool, who are you using? Yeah. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, cool. Are they're based here?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, but they've got people on the ground in.
Yeah. And do you know who those people are? So this is the hot take. This is the thing. They're getting the real estate agent who's selling the product to take the video and the photos. It's not a conflict of interest because the real estate agent is being remunerated by the buyer's agent, but not with cash. They're telling them you can have the rental and that lease agreement for that client that's buying that property. So no money's exchanged hands, right? So it's all above board. Yeah. You can keep the rental, which means you've just added $10,000 to your rental management book. Is that worth you running around and taking some photos and videos for me?
But that's the equivalent of me calling up you and going, Jay, I see you're selling can you take a video of it for me and send it to me?
Mate,
are you going to show me the rusted parts?
Yeah. And see, we realized this very early in 2020 because we wanted to start buying in Perth and we hadn't been in Perth since prior to 2010. And we had to set up our team again and get them all going, and they're all ex-real estate agents, so they all knew everybody. And they'd come to us and go, oh, we lost it to so-and-so buyer's agency. And I said, oh, do they have people there? And they're like, no, The real estate agent took the video for them and then they bought it. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they'd speak to the real estate agent. The real estate agent's like, oh yeah, you're the first buyer's agent I've seen physically at any of these inspections because they're all interstate. And the way they're doing it is I'm taking the videos for them and I'm like, and here's an example. I found a property that I loved and I wanted to buy in Perth for myself back in 2022. I did all the research. I had all the data. I was like, great. I told my buyer's agent, Brian, I said, go and look at this property for me. I just want you to give it a once over, make sure it's above board, but I'm going to make an offer today anyway because I'm happy with it. He calls me up and he said, you can't buy it. I said, what do you mean? I said, I've looked at everything. It's perfect. It's corner block, which means it's got 2 street facades. I can subdivide it. It's a gold mine. He said, next door. He said, I jumped on the fence and I looked over next door. He said, they've got Glad wrap against all the windows. I said, what the hell does that mean? And he said, it means they want light to come in, but they don't want people to see what's going on inside the house. He said, there's something dodgy going on. He said, if it's a drug house or something like that, he said, you're going to have the cops here all the time and you're going to have a revolving door for your tenants.
Yeah.
He said, it's going to be a nightmare. Don't buy it.
Yeah.
Now, no real estate agent's going to tell you about that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. And no video that someone's going to do without checking the neighbors, speaking to people is going to give you that insight.
Yeah.
People like AI is going to take over our jobs. Yeah, I'm waiting for AI, to check for water damage, concrete cancer, stuff like that. We'll see when that happens.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's not realistically going to happen.
So there's some real scary stuff that happens, and people are doing it with companies that are either really, really cheap or really, really ridiculously expensive. And I find that standard for buyer's agents is like between 1.7 to 2%. Like that's kind of the standard.
Yep.
But I see some people that are like, oh, we charge $6,000. And I'm like, what do you do? What work are you doing?
I've seen that. The thing that I always tell people is you've got to pay to play in this game. And if you're not willing to pay, cheap is not the way to do it.
Yeah.
Just don't do it. Go buy shares.
Yeah.
Right? Because you buy the cheap property. There's a guy, I don't know if you've seen him on YouTube. He goes around and audits people's bills.
Yeah, he's great.
He's
fantastic. I love watching him.
His name's Zaire. I forget the name. Site inspections.
Yeah, no, it's so good.
He recently did a video, and his videos go for like an hour and 15.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I started, I'm like, there's no way I'm watching this whole thing, okay?
But you can't stop.
You end up watching
it's like
the
a
whole
train
thing.
wreck, yeah.
I felt really bad for this woman. She was clearly a first-time buyer.
Yeah.
And they said, oh, why did you pick this builder? And she said, they seemed really great to deal with, and they were the most economical option. And that's what I'm like, oh,
yeah, that's a dirty word for me.
There's no such thing.
Yeah.
And this is the thing is, and this kind of goes on to a larger topic that I want to have a chat with you about is we're getting where I feel like we are in a situation now where if you want to make significant amounts, if you want to make a significant gain in the property game, you do now need to start to really up how much money you spend. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
This isn't a $500,000
no,
game.
The median dwelling value now across the combined capitals is about $982,000. That's the average house, townhouse, unit, villa combined. Yeah. That's what it is.
Yeah. So if you look at that, right, let's just use, because Albanese has now lifted the cap and brought it forward, which we'll have a chat about.
Yeah.
So let's say you spend 1.25, okay? The thing that I say to people is, especially first-time buyers, I say, listen, spend the extra money, okay? Don't use a conveyancer, use a property lawyer, okay? Because conveyancers, their job is to flick through as many contracts in the day as possible.
That's it.
A conveyancer, a property lawyer, what they'll do is they'll take longer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll put clauses in there.
Right.
Yeah.
So that, and I said, look, just your first one.
Yeah.
Okay. Just your first go.
Yeah.
Sit down. You'll learn so much too. And someone gave me that advice when I was 22.
Yeah.
Okay. And I did that, and I learned so much from that person, and I still use that person today.
Yeah.
He's very old.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he's wise.
But he's very wise.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a quick way how he got me out of a jam. I went and looked at a property. This is 2003.
Okay.
Went and looked at a block of units, and it was the penthouse, which is what got me.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, oh, it's the penthouse. Okay. Like I was like 23, 24.
Yeah.
And anyway, I go into this lawyer's office, and he sits me down, and he goes, you sure you want to be buying from this developer? And this developer shall remain, well, his name will not mention. Yeah. And he picked up a crate. Yeah. And he slammed it on his desk, and he said, these are all my clients who are suing this developer.
Oh, no.
And he said, I'm not going to tell you don't do it, but what I would ask that you do is just go have a look at some of their previous work.
Yeah.
And I did, and I quickly changed my mind.
Yeah.
Right. a conveyancer is not going to do that.
No.
Right.
But that's why the due diligence side's important. Whenever I get a client that has purchased a building and pest inspection off the seller,
Yeah.
I'm like, mate, oh, it was $25. It was the most economical. I understand a building and pest inspection is $700. I've done it for myself where I purchased it from the selling agent. And then before we signed on the dotted line, I got my building and pest guy in and he said, don't touch it. He said, you would not touch this property at all. He said, there's red flags everywhere. And I pulled out and the agent's like, why'd you pull out for? I said, my guy looked at it and he wasn't happy with it. He goes, oh, I think your guy's being paranoid. I'm like, he works for me,
Yeah.
right? Like I pay him, so he works for me.
You pay him to be paranoid.
I pay him for that. You work for the vendor.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. I think so many people think, oh, because I'm having a nice chat with the real estate agent, they're going to be
Yes.
friends with me. It's like, no, mate, they are, and some of my best friends are real estate agents, but they are there for themselves and then second they're there for the client. And the reason I say they're there for themselves first is because if a vendor needs another $50,000 added to their price point to get them some money, at 2% for the selling agent, it's $1,000,
Yeah.
which they have to split with the
Franchise.
with the franchise.
Yeah.
So what's more compelling?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a very important thing, and I try to drill it into people as much as possible. That
Yeah, that's good.
You're not paying. You're not negotiating the price on a second-hand car or a washing
Mm.
machine. I'll give you a quick example. I had a first-home buyer. She was looking to purchase a property, and she was looking in Lane Cove, and she was looking at this development, and it was cheap, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was cheap.
And she's like, oh, my friend's a conveyancer. And I said, look, I'm not here to interfere with you and your friend's relationship, but can I just give you a piece of advice? Do whatever you want. Go see a property lawyer. If something happens with this place, you're going to lose your friendship.
Yeah,
with your
it'd be
friend,
gone. That's right.
And, you could be potentially looking to litigate against someone. It could be very, very messy. Don't do it. She ends up going to a property lawyer. The property lawyer goes, don't touch this development. They're pulling out, it was 300, a block of 300. They're pulling out every bathroom because the waterproofing has failed.
Yeah.
Right. And she's like, oh, but it's cheaper. And he's like, do you want to live in a construction
Yeah,
site for the next
exactly.
3 years of your life?
Mate.
Like the conveyancer's not going to do that.
No.
Right? The conveyancer will tell you, hey, look, just so you know, there's going to be building works, blah, blah. But they're not going to go, hey, you're not looking at this logically. You're just looking at it because it's cheap. Now, that same person went and ended up purchasing a property opposite a metro station in Crow's Nest. She's now received, it's been about 2 and a bit years. She's received decent capital growth. And I literally had a call with her yesterday. She's now looking to sell that and purchase something larger.
Yeah.
Right.
What
So it's
a
a
great success story.
It's allowed her to move forward.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if she bought that place in Mowbray Road?
Oh mate, again, it's the biggest thing for us. As I said, we've been around for 20 years. The biggest thing for us is the sleep at night factor. The last thing you want to do is have something where it's keeping you up at night. And listen, mistakes can happen, but you don't want them to happen often. You want to be like, listen, it was the perfect storm and this happened. It sucks. We did everything we possibly could. This is what happened at the end of the day, and that's terrible. But if you're a company where you go to their Google reviews and that's constantly happening and it's a trend, you're like, there's something going on here. And that's why not all mortgage brokers, not all buyer's agents, not all conveyancers are created equal.
Yeah. Okay. I appreciate I to be honest, I didn't really appreciate the level of detail that you guys go into. I don't know if it's all buyers agents, but like I said to you at the beginning, I kind of thought that you engage buyers agents because they know the off market stuff before it hits the market. That was kind of my simplistic understanding of it. Before we wrap up, I want to ask you about Albanese and this cap.
The house, yeah, okay, yeah.
What do you think? What do you think that's going to do?
What it's going to do is, and my opinion's always been that first home buyers should be able to either buy a home to live in or buy anywhere in Australia and still get their CGT exemption. Because if they're renting, they're renting. If they're not living in it, that's it. Like they should get that exemption. The Albanese government needs properties, right? We're a year into the housing accord and we're 60,000 properties behind where we're supposed to be, right? There's no way we're going to build enough. So property prices are just going to keep going up. And you've got places that just do stupid things. I feel so sorry for first home buyers being confused. You've got states like Victoria and Jacinta Allen's coming out and going, oh, we've dropped the land tax threshold from 300,000 to 50 grand. So all of a sudden overnight, everyone's paying land tax. But at the same time, they're going, if you buy a brand new off the plan townhouse, no matter what the price is, there's no stamp duty. So it's like, but you just charged that person land tax and they paid 600 grand. And then this other person's gone and bought a $2 million off the plan townhouse and you're saying there's no stamps? So like, I feel like what this Accord's going to do, and then bring it forward to October 1st, it's going to put a lot of people in a position where they can now potentially jump into the market. And I think that's a good thing to get that earlier access. But what are they sacrificing by only doing a 5% deposit, right? How much longer do they now have to take to pay off this property? And if they are buying a property in the wrong location, if you buy it in the right location and it's great, you're going to make the capital growth and you're going to go, that was worth the risk.
Yeah.
But the majority of Australians are most likely going to buy a property in the wrong location. They're taking a huge risk with this. And if it doesn't make money, and we see it all the time, we see people that have owned property for 10, 20, 30 years and it's never made them money. And I'm just thinking to myself, you know, it's like when I heard people going to take money out of their super and buy investment properties or buy, I was like, buy their owner occupier. I was like, what are you sacrificing to do it? So I think that it's going to create more competition. And I think just like when we see any adjustment to first home buyers grants, typically wherever the median dwelling value is, the property prices just go up to whatever that new level is. So they just get artificial inflation is probably the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
I think it's important that Australians get a chance to buy a piece of, you know, the Australian dream.
Yeah.
But I think that dream's been dead for a long time. And I think people just don't want to admit to it.
Do you think there'll be a shift? I've been waiting for this shift to happen for a long time, but it doesn't seem to occur. When I was a kid, buying property, the yields would be like 6-7%.
Yeah.
Right. Even in Sydney.
Yeah. Average is now 3.5.
Right. I see less than that.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Like just anecdotally.
Yeah.
At what point are people going to say, "Nah, this is crap. I'm going to buy shares instead"?
Yeah.
Like when are they going to shift? And look at the numbers and go, okay, like this just doesn't make sense. That's kind of the thing that I look at.
I agree. And that's why I think the rent vesting has taken off so quickly. I think people have gone, oh, I'm going to do that. Like, again, we've been fed these narratives. Oh, you'd never buy a unit. Oh, even when we were rent vesting, my wife and I, you know, a long time ago, people would ask us and go, when are you guys going to get your own house? I was like, I have a property portfolio. Like, what are you talking about? You own one property that you live in, but I have multiple properties in different capital cities. And you're being like, when are you guys going to settle down and buy a property? Like, I rent in a place that I couldn't afford to own. And it's just that mindset that has to change. And I think with stuff like, you know, cryptocurrencies and all those type of things, derivative products, shares, etc. I think you're right. I think there's more options now for people to go, if property is going to be seen by the Australian people as a gateway to wealth, what other gateways haven't I reviewed yet that are potentially going to be better? Whenever I hear a client that goes, I'm buying this investment property to minimize my tax, I'm like, you realize you pay stamp duty going in, right? So you're paying tax to go in. There's nothing wrong with buying properties that help you minimize tax, but you have to have, that can't be the sole reason you are buying an investment. I just feel sorry. You've got a young kid. I've got 2 young girls. At the end of the day, man, where are they going to buy? What are they going to do? You know, are we going to trust the Albanese government's going to create affordable, well-located housing for our kids? No way. That stuff's not going to happen.
No. The cynic in me thinks that all the Albanese government is doing, and look, I'm just openly, I'm not like just a Labor voter. I voted Liberal, Labor, Greens, Independent. Like I voted for all of them. I look at policy. That's it. You know, the thing is that the divide between the have and have-nots is just getting wider and wider, and I think that Sydney is just going to be another city like London, Hong Kong, Singapore,
absolutely, where
property gets passed down. You know, through families, and it's just the wealthy that have it. My thing is actually I was having a chat to a journalist the other day, and he was like, "Where do you see, like, how are young people going to get onto the property ladder?" I just think the pathway is different. It's kind of interesting what you're talking about with crypto, etc., and you know, so many different opportunities for people to make money. I just think that the pathway is going to change.
It has to.
It has to, right? So if you're a kid, okay, so traditionally the pathway would be, I buy an apartment, I then get a townhouse, I then get a house.
Yeah,
right?
we upgrade.
Right?
Yeah.
I think the pathway is going to be different. So you come out as a kid, you know, you get your first corporate job or whatever the case may be, tradie job, etc. Once you start making decent amounts of money, you start investing in ETFs,
Yep.
crypto, blah blah
Yeah.
blah. Like you, and I'm not advocating for any sort of investment classes. Okay, I just want to be upfront. But I'm just saying, just if you're a typical kid, like 25 or whatever, or let's say 28, okay, and you've saved off 50 grand, and you bought Bitcoin a year ago, you'd have nearly 100 now.
Yeah,
right?
and obviously you got to think about. I'm an ex-stockbroker, so I did that before I became a buyer's agent. I did it for 10 years, right? So I think every portfolio should be balanced. And obviously the volatility side of stocks and cryptos, is crazy. And that's one of the reasons why I kind of moved to property, because it was a little bit more stable, less volatile.
Consistent.
Yeah, consistent. But absolutely, if I had 50K and I'm like, well, I'm buying one property in one location, not very diversified. I've got running costs for that product too,
Yeah.
rental management, insurance costs, etc. Yes, they're tax deductible, but I've got to cash flow it before I get the money back.
Correct. Yeah.
So I'm going to sit there and go, am I confident enough that this is the right purchase, or should I diversify and dibby dabble in different things? And I think that that's a sad thing. And you and I have talked about this on multiple occasions, when the problem with school, the school that we have today, is that they don't teach any of that stuff.
No.
So you come out of it and you're like, oh, I know about Terra Nullius, and I know about Eddie Marbo, and I know about, ancient history. I did ancient history, the Spartans, all that stuff, all that awesome. But it's like, hey, do you know when GST was introduced? Do you know why they introduced it? Do you know what levels they put it in at? Do you know what stamp duty does? Do you know how foreign investment works?
How do you manage a credit card?
How do you manage a credit card? Anything like that. I didn't know what tax was. When I got taxed for my first job, I went to the guy, the payroll person. I said, "You've made a mistake." I honestly didn't realize. I said, "You've made a mistake," and she's like, "That's the tax." I was like, "What? What are you talking about?" She's like, "Yeah, we pay you, and then the government takes half of it." I'm like, "Oh,
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, Jade, thank you so much for coming in. It's been really, I've learned a ton on how buyer's agents work, and also especially the attention to detail that you have when it comes to the auction process. So thank you so much. I hope we can chat again.
yeah, thank you. It was great."